used to believe that things in my life needed to change in order for me to enjoy it more, but I was wrong. You can start enjoying your life so much more right now without anything changing externally. In this video, I am sharing tangible but powerful ways you can actually start liking your everyday life a whole lot more. And this information is not coming from things that I've read. This is what's really helped me and worked for me in my life, and so I want to share that with you. A lot of times our first instinct is to go, well, I'll be happier or I'll enjoy my life more when I get a new job, when I get a relationship, when I make more money. And while circumstances changing can definitely impact how we feel, especially if we are currently in a particularly stressful situation, but those kinds of situations aside, we can start enjoying our lives so much more right now without anything external changing, simply by changing our mindset and how we're approaching our life. So let's get into how we can do that. The first block is to shift what you are focusing on. Your mindset programs your reality. What you focus on and how you interpret your experiences has a major impact on how you feel on a day-to-day basis. You can feel completely different in your life just by shifting what you focus on. For example, I have had the experience where I'm running late for work and I'm in this rush mode and I'm a little anxious and a little stressed. And so on my way to work, I am focused on the fact that I am running late and I am again, in that rush like state of mind. And so I am noticing and focused on the red lights that I'm hitting, the slow cars that I'm behind, and it's making me more agitated and amplifying those feelings of anxiety and stress. And then I get to work feeling that way. But I'll have other days where I'm also running late for work. I'm in pretty much that exact same experience of leaving around the same time, but instead I'm focused on singing along to my favorite songs on the way to work, or having a great conversation with a friend, or thinking about my daily gratitude. And because of that, I'm not nearly as focused on the fact that I am running late. And so when I get to work, I actually feel happy and joyful and calm. And nothing about the experience was really different. I left my house at the same time, I got to work at the same time, but I felt so much different simply by changing what I was focusing on. Whereas another example, I got into my line of work simply because I thought it was so much fun. I really enjoyed it. But then after a few years of doing it, I started really focusing on the pressure of it, the stressors, the responsibility and the obligation, and just in general, the things I didn't like about it. And I didn't really enjoy my job anymore. But at some point I realized what was happening and I shifted my focus back to what I enjoyed about it, how much fun it could be, all the benefits I get from it. And suddenly I started enjoying my job so much more again. Again, simply by just changing what I was focusing on. And this applies to every area of life. For example, if you're in a relationship, you are going to feel so much different and have a different experience if you are really focused on what your partner does that annoys you, what you wish was different about them, if you are being very critical of them, versus being really focused on all the things they do for you, all the things you love about them, all the things you admire about them, all the fun you guys have together. And feeling differently will lead you to show up differently, which will create a different dynamic and again, just a completely different experience. As humans, it is so easy to get focused on what it is that we want but we don't have, what we think needs to be different, what we feel like we need to change or fix, how we feel like we're not good enough, what we wish we achieved but haven't yet. But the more we are focused in that direction, the less good we're going to feel about our lives. So there are 3 ways I want you to think about shifting your focus. One is to shift your focus to all the amazing things you have in your life right now. This probably isn't going to just happen by like a snap of your fingers. You're not just going to be so used to focusing on the negative and suddenly that turns off and you only focus on the positive, right? Our brain is used to operating in this certain way and focusing in this certain direction, and it is kind of wired in this way. So we have to actively and intentionally shift our focus into this new direction. It's an active thing we have to do over and over time it gets easier. The saying, what you focus on grows, is so cliche, but it's also true. We want to focus on all the good things in our lives and really feel how good it is to have those things in our lives instead of just taking them for granted. And the more we actually pay attention to the good things in our lives, the more our brain focuses and pays attention to more good things that we have. It's essentially like training your brain to actually pick up on more good things. So take time to think about, I actually really love my home. I feel so blessed with the friendships I have in my life, and I feel like I just have so many amazing people in my life. I love that I actually have a reliable car. I love the trail that I live nearby. It is so easy to focus on what we want or what we're striving for that we don't even pay attention to or just don't spend any time thinking about all the good things that we actually have right now. And one thing that tends to take away from noticing all the good and amazing things in our lives are all the narratives that we tell ourselves. So I want you to think about all of your thoughts as stories, as narratives, not as fact or truth, but as a story. There's a good chance that you have a bunch of narratives in your head that don't really make you feel good, like, I'm not successful until I achieve Y. I won't be happy until I'm in a relationship. I should be farther along by now. Or even if you think about something and then your brain immediately comes up with something to diminish it, like if you're thinking about how much you appreciate the neighborhood you live in, and you're like, I live in such a good neighborhood, but I wish this, and this were different. Then we're switching the focus right back to the negative or what we wish was different, instead of really soaking in the amazing parts. So just notice the kinds of things that your brain says and recognize them as just a story that you can either choose to continue to pay attention to and entertain, or a story that you reframe, or you don't pay any attention to, or you choose to shift the focus right back to, no, actually, I feel really good about X, Y, and Z. And number 3 is to appreciate all the little things. Make the mundane seem so amazing. Romanticize all the little things. This makes life feel so much more beautiful and juicy and just so good. Appreciate how good your coffee tastes, how amazing the meal tastes, how good it feels to have warm water running down your skin, how much you enjoy the sunshine. Appreciate the laughter you share with your friends, how good the candle smells, how beautiful and cozy your home is. The more you appreciate all the little things that you have in your life every single day, the better you're going to feel in your life. And again, the more you'll be training your brain to notice and pay more attention to those things. The second big block is bringing more joy, fun, and play into your life. Start approaching your life and your tasks and activities with the sense of, how can I make this more fun? Either what can I do to make this more fun, or how can I just go into it with a mindset of, this is fun, this can be fun. How can you bring more fun and play and creativity to all the things that you do? We can approach things from a place of seriousness and obligation and need to or should. Or we can approach things with a sense of joy and play. If you are going to cook dinner, how can you make it a more fun experience? Or how can you bring this energy of fun to it? And you can do this for anything: working out, your chores, getting ready in the morning, planning a trip, driving to work. Life just feels so much better when we approach it with this lightness, with this sense of fun versus seriousness or obligation. And then outside of changing how you do things, you want to make sure you are actually creating time and space for things that you enjoy, for things that you find fun and fulfilling. It is so easy to fill our time with obligations and responsibilities and not make time for these things because maybe we have a narrative that things that are just for enjoyment aren't productive. Or maybe we have the narrative that making time just for ourselves is selfish. But that is not true. And having more fun and being more fulfilled and feeling less heavy and bogged down actually helps you be a much better version of you. That helps you feel more creative. That helps you feel more happier and lighter and show up better in your relationships and your career. It helps you be more productive. And then as you do things that actually fill you up with joy, you can try to get that energy to bleed out into everything else you do for the rest of the day. And all of this may feel really unnatural and a little uncomfortable because it is so different from your norm. But I want you to see that discomfort, if you happen to experience it, just as a sign that you are moving in the right direction. Now, those were the 2 big blocks, but one thing that will help so much with changing how you think, changing how you approach your life, and just helping you feel so much more joy is calming your nervous system, slowing down, and being more present. When your nervous system is overstimulated and dysregulated, it is so much tougher to change how you think, to feel those feel-good feelings, to notice the good things in your life. It is really hard to appreciate the good things in your life when you are just rushing around and so focused on what you need to do next or the long list of things on your to-do list. But when your nervous system is calmer, when you slow down a little bit, the opposite is true. It is easier to change how you think. It is easier to change how you approach your life. It is easier to feel those feel-good feelings of joy and happiness and peace and gratitude and appreciation. And I have a video on nervous system regulation if you want to dive a little bit deeper and go check that out. But for just some bullet points, one thing that really helped me personally was to actively remind myself to slow down. I 100% was that person who used to rush around and run around like a chicken with their head cut off, just constantly kind of in stress and rush mode. So anytime I would notice myself be in that headspace of rushing, I would just remind myself to slow down. And sometimes I don't think I even actually moved all that much slower, but it just completely changed my energy, going from a very frazzled one to just feeling a little bit more calm. So remind yourself to slow down if that is a state that you tend to get into. Try doing a task a little bit slower. Put fewer things on your to-do list. Doing less things per day or just less things in general is not going to change that much of your life. And that can be a really tough narrative to really break into and to stop believing. But trust me on that one and talk to someone in their 60s or 70s or 80s, and I promise you they will tell you the same thing. Prioritize what's actually essential, what's actually going to move the needle in some way. And then you also want to take time every single day to actually calm your nervous system. So this can look different. There are different ways to go about this, but you can do some kind of breathwork meditation. You can do a yoga nidra. You can do some gentle yoga, or you could just go sit outside in the grass and appreciate nature or appreciate things about your life. And when it comes to regulating your nervous system, part of it is actually calming our nervous system because majority of us are overstimulated and more in fight or flight or survival mode, but that also includes building a more resilient nervous system. And one of the ways that I believe is so useful in building a more resilient nervous system is to get into a more unbothered energy, for things to just not bother you nearly as much as maybe they did in the past. Be in a place of staying in your own lane, really just not worried about what others are doing or what others are thinking about. See yourself as a more resilient person who, when things happen to you that normally maybe really frazzled you or stressed you out, they just don't bother you as much. You don't react to them as strongly. And another thing that I think is super helpful with building mental resilience and nervous system resilience is just self-trust. So practicing on cultivating a deeper self-trust with yourself. Now, there are so many factors that play into how you feel in your life, but here are some tangible tools that you can use to help shift how you feel on a day-to-day basis. And information is great, watching this video is great, but the real magic happens when we actually implement the things, when we actually take action toward changing our mindset or approaching our lives differently. So here are some tangible to-dos. Once a day, think about or write out all the amazing things you have in your life right now. I highly recommend adding this to some kind of routine that you already have. Set an alarm or a reminder that reminds you to appreciate the little things and see what all you can genuinely appreciate in that moment. As you go through your week and do things each day, ask yourself, how can I make this more fun? How can I make this feel more playful or creative? Set a reminder or an alarm to remind you to bring more fun to a task, such as cooking or getting ready for bed or doing some chores. Set a reminder to slow down and schedule a 5-minute yoga nidra or time to go outside every single day. Or for the next week, pretend like you are someone who appreciates all the little things, who feels like their life is just so amazing, who feels calmer, who moves slower, who loves to make things feel more fun, and specifically carves out time for the things that they enjoy. and just see what happens. I hope you got value out of this video. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe for future videos and to support the channel. I'm so glad you stumbled across this video, and I hope to see you in another one. Bye.